So I got questions for MMA Canada. So what are your thoughts on Mr. Gustafsson as an opponent?
I think it's going to be a great fight, man. He's tall, he's young, ambitious, and he likes to strike. Everyone likes a good kickboxing match. I think it's going to be a great fight. I think he's a perfect opponent.
How important is it for you to set the record for the light heavyweight division of championship victories?
It's extremely important for me to set this record. Keeping goals in mind is what drives me. It's the biggest fighter against complacency, and me accomplishing these goals is it's just what motivates me to keep striving for higher and bigger and better things. So this fight's very, very important to me. Just as important as becoming the champion in the first place.
What do you think of Gustafsson's game and what he brings to the octagon?
I think he has a great game, man. It's pretty clear that his punching ability is his number one gift. Outside of that, there's definitely some holes. But for the most part, he's a game opponent.
So what do you think him training at Alliance MMA with Mr. Davis for this fight?
That doesn't really do much for me. I train with Greg Jackson and that team's known to be one of the best teams in the world. So Phil Davis it's not like Phil Davis is like no disrespect to Phil, but it's like that doesn't do anything for me.
What have you noticed about the Mauler while watching his tapes?
He seems to have good people around him. He's got my respect wholeheartedly just from watching his interviews and some of his past training camps and just everything I can find at him. He seems like a guy who's driven. He seems like he has a good head on his shoulders. I like his attitude. And because of that, I know I got to train. I know I got to come with it. So that's what I'm going to do. It's not a light fight for me.
Any predictions?
My prediction is that I'm going to go out there and I'm going to finish the fight.
Jon, especially what happened just this past weekend, a lot of people would probably put you in as the favorite to win, but as you all know, that anything can happen in the UFC. I mean, do you think about what happened over the weekend?
Yeah, I've always known that anything can happen, but I'm not gonna take Anderson Silva's defeat and associate that to my life. You've never seen me drop my hands or taunt an opponent. I never will, and I never expect for anything like that to happen to me. To lose on a fluke. Because me, not having my hands up. So I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna allow Anderson's situation to have anything to do with my life and my fighting ability and the way I look at fighting and treat my opponents and things like that.
What do you think his strengths and weaknesses are?
My next opponent,
yeah.
Gustafsson. I think his clear strength is his boxing ability. I'm not sure which is his bigger weakness, whether it's wrestling or jiu-jitsu, but I'll figure that out once I get more in depth with my studying.
And I was going to ask too, what are you thinking to beat him? What do you need to do?
What I need to do is just to be myself, confident, dynamic, diverse in my skills, strong, great cardio, take the fight seriously and train my hardest, train like this is the most important thing that I've ever done. And if I do that, there's no reason why I should lose to him.
You've been here at the ACC several times. There's a love, there's a hate. Does it affect you in any way?
No, it doesn't affect me in any way. What I've learned to realize is when people are standing, they're standing. It doesn't matter if they're booing or cheering. They paid their money to be in that arena. They got their outfit on. They're there for the big night. You know what I mean? So it's like they're cheering or booing. They still made it. They're still supporting. So that's the way I try to look at it.
Hey Jon, you mentioned that you asked for the fight, as did Gustafsson, and I just kind of want to get a sense of the timing on that. There was that photo of you two in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, was that a part of getting the fight? Was that the catalyst to asking for the fight? Like when did the kind of you approaching the UFC sort of happen?
Well, I think it started a while back. People started asking me. I never call out people, but people are starting to ask me, who can you see fighting next? And Gustafsson's been a name I've been throwing out there for a while. I just wanted to be clear to people that Gustafsson hasn't hunted me down to get this shot. I've been waiting for him to come along this whole time, and I think me winning a record and proving more critics wrong at the same time is just like a fairy tale way to win the record for me. There's no one better for me to beat than someone who's young like me and tall like me with the reach too. It's like I cancel out that record and pretty much all the critics with one big fight. So that's the way I'm looking at it, and so I feel really right on schedule. This is perfect.
Yeah, and you mentioned that obviously you want to break the record, Tito Ortiz's record, and then you're going to consider possibly super fights, heavyweight move. Is that still sort of the mindset, or do you abandon all that thought once the fight's signed?
Well, it's not necessarily my main mindset, what I try to do is give the fans what they want, and I know super fights are going to be important for that, and it's going to be important for my legacy too. But it's something that I feel like I have a lot of time to accomplish. Like I said, I'm 25, and I haven't really taken too much damage. So, fighting at light heavyweight is something I could do for the rest of my career. But the super fights and the heavyweight fights is strictly for the fans, and I know it's something that I'm going to need to do. So, but it's not my main focus. My main focus is to be the best light heavyweight to do it.
And I guess just kind of along those lines, I mean, a win over Gustafsson, do you feel like you sort of cleaned out the division? You're close to cleaning out the division? Where do you kind of at that point?
There's Gustafsson, there's Glover Teixeira, there's Phil Davis. That's really the top three names that come to mind as far as fresh competition that I haven't fought yet. Obviously, Leon Machidas, he's always dangerous, and he doesn't seem to want to drop weight, or he's not going to be gaining much weight, so he's going to be around in the division for many years too. So, yeah, Machida, Davis, Teixeira, these guys are here.
What does this fight kind of tell you about the evolution of MMA? I mean, you're 25, he's 26. You guys are in the main event fighting for the world title. What does that kind of tell you about where the sport is at this point?
It just goes to show the future of the sport. I think as the sport gets more popular, it's going to get younger. You're going to have guys that would be training for an NFL combine, training to get into the UFC. Right now our sport is at a place where the men are older. They're mid-30s, they're almost 40. They were doing it before you got paid to do it. They were doing it because they love it. I think in the future, you're going to have young guys like me coming straight out of college, learning how to fight with dreams to be a world champion in cage fighting. So I can honestly see the future of the UFC being loaded with guys who are 25, 19, 20, because obviously, I think younger athletes will excel at this once they learn the technique. So I see it getting younger for sure.
And you've been tweeting and a lot of pictures and stuff since your last fight. Have you have movie lots, doing all this kind of stuff? Is there anything you want to share with us that you're kind of having in the works?
Nothing too big has been finalized, but there's definitely some pretty big movie roles that I've been introduced to. Small parts, but pretty big movies. So I'm really grateful for it, and hopefully I can do that in between the fighting and training and things like that.
Is the cut down to 205, does it get more difficult with each fight? Is it still relatively okay in terms of weight cutting at this point in your career?
I would say it's gotten a lot easier. I've matured a lot, and I have a nutritionist now, and my discipline is always growing each camp. And I would say it's gotten a lot easier to make weight for sure.
Anderson Silva stated after the fight, that there was part of it where it was like this weight off their shoulders, and a lot of people can't sympathize with that. But I'm sure you're someone. Do you kind of understand where he's coming from? Where obviously, with this job, with this title, and all of the pressure that comes with it, it is there on a day-to-day basis that people can see.
There is a lot of weight, a lot of pressure to being a UFC champion. You have to try to carry yourself in a right way at all times, and realize that there's a little bit more. There's a little more. Scrutiny when you mess up. There's a little bit more everything when you mess up, so you gotta try to be on point at all times. But I try not to allow myself to feel that weight, just by keeping my life as simple as possible, and winning my fights, training hard. So, like I said earlier in the press conference, I'm a young guy who haven't accomplished as much as a lot of these other guys like George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva. So I try not to allow the complacency to settle in.
Do you feel that you're kind of now in that spot now? A lot of people, you're at the top of people's pound-for-pound rankings coming off of the weekend, and that you're kind of now thrust into the position that some have replaced Silva with.
I don't feel any pressure with this new title of being the #1 pound for pound, only because, things have been so unreal for me since day one through all this hard work that, it's like, if this is the way it's going to be, my only job is just to continue to work really hard so it all keeps pouring in like this and keeps happening this way. So my biggest thing is just to remain extremely grateful for it all, and just to keep that work ethic that has gotten me here, and just to be grateful for it all.
This last one for me, your camp had a big night on Saturday. Andrew Craig, Tim Kennedy, but specifically Cub Swanson. 5 in a row now. You've got to see this transformation. He's just looking incredible at 145 pounds. So what did you think of his performance?
I think Cub Swanson is phenomenal. I tell him all the time that he's one of the best fighters in the gym. Sometimes I don't think he believes me. I think he's starting to believe me. I see him do extraordinary things. The heavyweight classes are about 2 hours before the light weight classes, and I always stay behind just to watch Cub Swanson compete. He's amazing, and he's just capable of so much. He truly is a mixed martial artist, and I cannot wait to watch him fight for a title.
Welcome back to Toronto, firstly.
Thanks for having me back.
I hope you're enjoying your coffee. I hope it's a Tim Hortons.
I'm not sure where it came from.
enjoying
It was good. It did the trick. Absolutely. I've only been here for a few hours, but I always have a great time when I'm here. Yeah.
So, before your last fight against Belfort, you were supposed to take on Dan Henderson. Is that a fight you're still looking forward to?
No, I have no wishes to fight Dan Henderson. Dan Henderson is a guy who, he's done a lot for the sport already. He's a lot older. I think he's a guy that a lot of people would expect me to beat anyways. I have no big dreams of fighting Dan Henderson. His last fight was Rashad Evans. You could really see him starting to slow down, and so fighting him, I don't think really proves much.
Last time you were here, you came out to Bob Marley. Is there going to be a new entrance song this time?
I think there will be a new entrance song. It could be another Bob Marley song. Who knows? Yeah, Bob Marley's the man. I love him everywhere.
As far as Gustafsson's concerned, a lot of people have trouble mimicking you in practice. You have trouble finding a sparring partner to match his size.
No, I never really try to find sparring partners that is like the same size as my opponent. I just need my partners to mimic the moves that I'll see. I'm sure once I get out there, I'll adjust accordingly. And as long as I'm familiar with the moves that he favors, I should react accordingly.
Thanks, that's all I got.
All right, thanks.
Just one question from me. Last year, in the whole UFC 151 debacle, was it ever pitched to you that Chris Weidman wanted to fight you at that? Was that true?
Supposedly, he had said in the media that he would fight me, but it had never gotten to me or was never offered to me. No.
All right, thanks a lot, John.